My name is Kelly Donovan. I was born October 6, 1961. Uh, my family life growing up was, well, I don't know if it was probably atypical. My father in 1964 went to Vietnam and came up missing in action, so I was basically raised without my dad. But I did have my grandfather there for that father figure, which helped mold me to the person I am. But it was hardworking, it was fun. Family was everything. My family, especially my mother, when she realized that this is that I could draw and paint and stuff like that at a very early age, was very supportive of that, to the detriment of my poor brother. I did know that I liked Western art, and the reason I did was my grandmother kept everything I ever drew from the time she said 2 years old. And in those drawings, you can see pictures of cowboys. And so for whatever reason, ingrained in my mind is the Old West. And I love the Old West. I like the new stuff too, but to me, the real romance is the Old West, 1880s type thing. The decision I made in my life, as far as a career, was pointed towards that. What helped me to realize that being an artist could be a real viable way to make a living was when I grew up in Colorado, and in Colorado every little town has their Founders Day art show, and those art shows all have a student division. So I started doing art shows when I was 9 or 10 years old, and I started winning awards when I was that young, and so that kind of power that comes from that, and the support from my family, helped me to know that this is what I could do. Really, probably the mentors I had probably were my art teachers in high school, and then when I graduated from high school, I ended up going to Rick's College up in Idaho, and Leon Parson, who was the head of the art department up there, sort of took me under his wing and taught me the importance of the fundamentals of art. So probably a man named Dick Doherty, which was my high school art teacher, and Leon Parson, which was I called it art boot camp up there, because he stripped you down and he started you over and really helped me develop those fundamentals. The reaction my mentors gave me to my artwork, especially in high school, was I wasn't allowed to use any kind of photo reference for my artwork. Everything had to come out of my head, and because that's the way he did it. And when I got to, which is good, because now I can draw pretty well just out of my head. In my own work I do now, I use photo reference for everything, because you can capture the reality of it better. When I went up to Rick's College and started taking courses up there, my emphasis was illustration, and I didn't know what Illustrator was coming out of high school. I just wanted to go my goal was to do book covers for Bantam Books, who published Louis Lamar, which is a Western cowboy author. Okay, well, Leon Parson was a type of guy where, just for instance, he broke us down, and we started right at the bottom level, like honestly boot camp. And we had to, was that he wanted me to put in the mileage I needed to be able to become a really good draftsman, which is, in this business, drawing is fundamental. I mean, if you can draw well, you can do anything, any medium. Being able to make a career out of art, I always had a gut feeling that I could do it. It's not an easy way to make a living. Any of the arts, it's not an easy way to make a living. I think the ones that end up making a living in art or dance or music or movies are the ones who stick it out and endure. But I always knew that somehow I would make a living at art. And at times I wanted to be an illustrator, times I wanted to be a police artist, sketch artist, a court artist. I can do all that stuff. I'm fast, and so I know I could do that. But my love was always Western art and the it's called the fine art field or the gallery art field, and that's where when I got my degree in illustration, I would either have to move to New York or LA to make a living as an illustrator. I couldn't see that happening with me, so at that point I started pursuing my fine art career. I met my wife in 1985 after serving a mission for my church. One of my companions had got me a job down in Arizona, so I went down there and I met her down there. Even though she's from Hiram, her family had moved down there a few months before I came off my mission. And I met her at a youth dance or a young adult dance. Pretty boring, but you know what? Her reaction to my career, I just want to start off by saying that it was a whirlwind. We met, and 3 weeks later we were engaged, and 3 months after that we were married. And in all this time, in 30 years since then, she has never shown any worry or, it's not the right way to say it. She's never doubted my ability to make this thing happen. And I have to say that there are times, the arts, it's feast or famine. And it's way true. There are times when we didn't know, where our next, how we were going to get the bills paid, but somehow it always happened. I was able to, scrounge up this and that and make a living at it. But during all that, I was doing other things. Like I worked in construction. I drove a armored car. I ran a tree stump removal business, and I was in a tree business, and just everything that was hard physical work that I did to support my art habit, as I call it. But eventually I painted billboards for 10 years too. I eventually got to the point where my paintings were selling fast enough that I couldn't do both. And so I had to make a decision, and we decided to, as a team, my wife and I, to pursue art as a career. And probably 6 months after that, they quit painting billboards. So it was a good decision, but you work hard. Her mother always reacted pretty well to my decision to be an artist. As far as I'm concerned, it was never a decision because I was always going to do it. But her dad was always, he was a practical farming guy, and this and this things. All your ducks had to be laid in a row, and I don't operate that way. I jump over a couple ducks or whatever. But so there were a couple times when we didn't know where our next check was coming from. That he even told her one time, "Why don't you tell that guy to get a job?" But soon after that, things really started to take off, and he did come and apologize to me for that. But so after that, the support was always there. I think my confidence came from doing these art shows as a youth and winning. I don't want it to come across as conceited or, whatever convoluted thing, but I won a lot of awards, and I still, as an adult, still do, and that gives you confidence. And then when somebody breaks out their checkbook and writes you a check for however much it is, that's also a confident booster. So just over my life and my career, I've just had that to help bring me along, and support from a family. We had all of our children by the time my career had really taken off, and it's been a blessing. Even when the times have been slow, it's been a blessing because whenever the kids needed a coach or whatever, I was able to take the time, because my time was my own, to go coach. When the kids started doing their plays in the high school, they needed someone to do backdrops. I was there to be able to do that, and so that, I don't know if I would trade that kind of freedom for a steady weekly paycheck. I just don't know, because I was never tied down to a job so that I couldn't provide things for my children that they need. I don't think they ever went without anything. my decision to become an artist has never been, I've never wavered in it. If you don't mind me getting a little bit religious just for a second, when the housing market crashed in 2008, my income in 1 year was cut in half. In the meantime, though, we had gotten out of debt, and so I didn't need a fortune to support my family. The next year after that, it was cut in half again. So we struggled along, but we made it. There were several times when I was thinking about, going out and finding a job to, a solid every week paycheck job. And I would get on my knees and I'd pray about it. And every time it would be, just keep doing what you're doing. I didn't hear those words, but those were the feelings that I got. Just keep doing what you're doing, everything will be fine. And every time we needed it, it was there. And we'd get these sales, and I always, even to today, every time I make a sale, it's a very humbling experience. And to me, I call them miracles. And so, because the first thing people quit buying in financial troubles are luxuries, and art's a luxury for sure. But so I just believe I've been sustained that way.